Manchester City have lost 1 in 34 Premier League games against Newcastle United, and we've won our last 15 home games against Newcastle United, but records are there to be broken. And this season, Manchester City have been breaking them left, right and centre. The unwanted records, the negative records, the records you do not want to be associated with. And that's what Manchester City have been doing. It's been a disastrous season. The frailties of this football club right now, this football side in particular, the certain errors that we show within the 90 minutes of a football match is just all too frequent for Manchester City this season. And Newcastle rocking up normally means a good thing. Normally it means Manchester City are going to bag all 3 points. But this Newcastle side versus this Manchester City side is a very different narrative this season. It feels very uncomfortable for Manchester City fans going into this fixture. And of course, Newcastle have won their previous 4 away games in a row, and they haven't won 5 in a row since 1994. They're on fire at the minute, Newcastle. They've been playing very, very good football, knocking Arsenal out of the Carabao Cup, finding themselves into that Carabao Cup final. From a City perspective, you're just hoping they've got one eye on that. They have got a few injuries, which I'll get onto as well, but they have the opportunity to leapfrog Manchester City this season as well. This game, in fact. And let's have a look at the league table, as you can see. Same points, 41 points each, and the exact same goal difference as well, both on plus 13. So City just hanging on ahead of Newcastle right now on goals scored. But you have a look at the next 6 fixtures for Manchester City. It doesn't get any easier. This Newcastle game is just one of many fixtures that are daunting for us. They scare the living daylights out of me. This run of fixtures, apart from Plymouth, and even that, I'm still a bit like, a little bit squeaky bum, Plymouth, because they knocked out Liverpool, didn't they? But looking at this fixture list here, it's scary. Newcastle at home, Madrid away, Liverpool at home. Those 3 in a row, just absolutely grim. Spurs away. I mean, normally they're the laughing stock of the Premier League at the minute, Spurs. Everyone's having a good time, having a good old time when you face Spurs. But when City plays Spurs, only Spurs they seem to be like they just turn up against us. They always turn up against us and give us problems. No matter which version of Spurs you're playing, they always give us a problem. And Spurs away is a grim fixture. Plymouth at home for City as well. I think that's where a lot of the focus, a lot of City fans now are claiming and stating that we should be focusing on this FA Cup. And I'm inclined to agree with them a little bit, to be honest, because it's our best chance of silverware this season. With the sides that are left in it, we've been given a reasonably kind draw there. With Plymouth, in particular being at home. You like to think we'll get the job done against Plymouth, don't you? You like to think that. I'm not sure we will, though. Forest away after that as well. I mean, they're 3rd in the table as well. So, I mean, it's just grim reading for Manchester City fans. But we've got to stop conceding early as well right now, because we've conceded in the first 10 minutes more. Only West Ham have conceded more times in the first 10 minutes of football matches this season than Manchester City. And we've conceded in the first 3 minutes in back-to-back Premier League games, at home to Chelsea and away to Arsenal. We've got to cut it out. I mean, a lot of City fans are hoping we concede first because we seem to have the ability to come back from games, but we didn't against Arsenal. And even when we score first, teams just come back against us as well. So it doesn't matter the order of the goals. It doesn't matter. City are just going to make sure the opposition have opportunities to score goals. This football side has showed too many frailties to go into any football match, and that's why I'm showing concern for the Plymouth game and actually trust them to keep a clean sheet. Don't make errors. Namely, and if you are making errors against this Newcastle side, against Isak and Gordon in particular as well, you're going to concede. You're going to concede goals. And I mean, City have conceded 57 goals in 38 games in all competitions this season. Last season, we conceded a total of 54 goals. So we've conceded 3 more goals already this season than we did in the entire of last season in 59 matches in all competitions last season. So we are absolutely up against it. We're on the ropes in terms of conceding goals this season. Let's have a look at the injury list as well, because I was kind of hoping Anthony Gordon was out, but he was pictured training and it's been stated that he's okay to play. So terrible news for City that Anthony Gordon and Isak are going to be linking up once again at the Etihad Stadium. And as we've seen all season, the evidence of those two linking up together has been lethal between those two. So the danger there is very evidently there. But injury news in terms of the back line for Newcastle is where it gives a little glimmer of hope for Manchester City that there is problems there for Newcastle. So Sven Botman is out. He's been ruled out. It's apparently not that serious, but he's out of the game. I then started to think, well, are they going to have the ability to play 3 at the back, with Emil Kraft being the only one that's now available because Lascelles is out as well. Dan Burn is a doubt, but I have a feeling he'll be okay to play. I think Dan Burn will play. Barnes is a doubt, but close to being, very close to being on return. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him on the bench, in fact, against City. And the greatest news of all of this is Joel Linton is still out. And I mean, if it was going to be a combination of Joel Linton, Tonali and Guimaraes in the middle of Newcastle's midfield, we were not winning. We're not winning that game. With our midfield versus that midfield, we're not winning. No Joel Linton, though, removes 1/3 of that incredibly physical and capable midfield that Newcastle have. 1/3 of it's gone. You could see Joel Willock in there, or you could see a back five for Newcastle, which would remove the need for Willock, and you could just have Tonali and Guimaraes in front of them. I'll get onto the team news, or my predicted starting 11 rather, in a minute. But as for City, Rodri and Grealish and Akanji as well are out. I haven't heard from Pep Guardiola yet. Not me personally. Like he rings up typical City. Hey, Johnny, I've got some team news for you, mate. No, just we haven't heard from Pep Guardiola. But in terms of the predicted starting 11, I'm going to start with Newcastle. In fact, because I'm curious what they're going to do at the back. I think we are going to see Dubravka, even though Nick Pope is now back. Normally has been the number one for Newcastle. He is back, but I feel like it would be a little bit harsh to drop Dubravka, and he's been doing all right. He's been doing all right this season. So I think they'll still trying to squeeze three at the back. They played five at the back, rather. Three centre-backs at the back against Arsenal, and it knocked Arsenal out. They were very convincing, and they dominated the game. Even though they had five at the back, they actually dominated the game and created the better chances in that game, I'd argue. But without Botman, and obviously Lascelles is out as well, who has been for quite some time now. What are they going to do in terms of that back line? I think we'll see Fabian Schär sat in the middle. And I do think Dan Burn will make it. And if he doesn't, that's unbelievable news for City, because what are they going to do then at the back? And I think we'll see Emil Kraft, who isn't ideal. He's not been getting that many minutes this season. And in this system, I think this more suited to Trippier. I think Trippier is a better wing-back than a full-back, going off his attributes. And I think Lewis Hall is more of a solid defender. He can come forward, but I think Livramento is more suited. If they go to a back four, Newcastle, I think we would probably see something like that instead, and see these two in the middle with Livramento and then Lewis Hall at left back. I think that's what the back four would look like. But I don't think it's going to look like that for Newcastle. I think, in particular, if Dan Burn is fit, I think we'd see Livramento in the left wing back position, put Emil Kraft back in there, and I think we'd see Trippier running up and down as a wing back. In front of them, if there is going to be the back five, I think we'd see Tonali and Guimaraes in there with Anthony Gordon sort of propping up that left side, and Jacob Murphy on the right, and arguably is in better form than Erling Haaland right now, isn't he? And I mean that's a statement alone saying that. But Isak is absolutely on fire. If it was to be a back four, I think you'd see Joel Willock in the midfield with a midfield three. If it is a back four that Newcastle go for, and Tonali, Guimaraes and Joe Willock in the midfield rather than Joel Linton. But in terms of Manchester City, Ederson or Ortega, both of them have shown problems this season. I would argue Ederson's shown a few more problems in recent weeks. He actually had an alright game against Real Madrid until he didn't, and then he just made an absolutely woeful error that cost us the game. I still think Pep's going to trust him, though. I really think he is going to trust him. I personally would go for Ortega. That would be my preference, but I think Pep's going to go with Ederson. What we do at right back is, I know what people are going to say. They're going to want to see Kusanov in there, but I think it's going to be Ruben Diaz and Nathan Ake as the back two, and Vardiol as left back. I know people want to see Hushinov in there. I mean, does he have an understanding of that position? The alternative is Nunez, and then you can say the same thing. You could ask that same question. Does he have an understanding of the position? I just feel like the speed, again, Kusanov's got that. He's got that speed. Nunez has got that speed because it's Anthony Gordon and Livramento who's going to be the danger man, or alternatively Lewis Hall and Anthony Gordon is going to be the danger man. But Kusanov in that position for me, I think it's too much of a risk. Even though Nunez isn't exactly ideal, very much a square peg in a round hole, I do think he's going to go with Nunez in that position again, because he's a little bit more tried and trusted. Take that lightly, the word trusted, in that position. But Nunez, he's played there more frequently, so I feel like he'll go with that. If Nico Gonzalez is fit, which supposedly he is, whether he's nursing an injury, I think he comes straight in. I think Kovacic and Gonzalez as the midfield two in front of that back line, and I think I need to see Phil Foden in the middle of the park pulling strings, because I thought he came on against Real Madrid and I thought he looked pretty good. He looked lively, looked like he had a point to prove, but he has had a roller coaster season in terms of form this season, Phil Foden. But I would go with Phil Foden in this game and give Kevin De Bruyne a rest. No Bernardo Silva, please, because how many minutes has this guy got without proving that he deserves more? I'm not sure he deserves any more minutes this season, Bernardo Silva. He's not doing it. He's not doing the job in that midfield, but Pep just absolutely hangs his hat on him. Do you know what I mean? I'll be surprised if he doesn't go for a meal with him every single day. You know what I mean? He's like absolutely hangs on to Bernardo Silva. Like at lunchtime, full well in the cafeteria, they're going to sit down every meal together. Bernardo Silva and Pep. I'm getting sick of it, man. And I love Bernardo Silva. Don't get me wrong. It's just like he needs resting. He needs resting. And of course, Erling Haaland's going to be the up front for Manchester City. I'm going to go with Marmoush on the left, and I'm going to go with Savinho on the right. Doku's fit, so he's an option as well, but I would just go for Marmoush. Savinho, Marmoush, Phil Foden, Erling Haaland. I believe that's the future of Manchester City right now. You know, with Doku is definitely an option in there, but there's 4 hungry players that have still got a point to prove. Their careers, they're entering into the peak of their careers. A little bit varied in terms of the age. Marmoush and Phil Foden, similar age. Savinho and Haaland a little bit on the younger side, but still, there's so many years ahead of them for that front 4. I don't want to see Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne in there because they don't have points to prove. These players do, and what they want to play Champions League football next season, because Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne, they may not even be here next season. So these guys have got something to fight for, you know. If it's no Nico Gonzalez in there, I'm going to go with John Stones again, who I thought was very good against Real Madrid, and that's only if Nico Gonzalez isn't fit. I would still go with Nico Gonzalez ahead of John Stones if he's fit. If he's fit, and that's a big if, according to the knock that he received. But Manchester City fans, got to watch along. Come and join me for that one. Make sure you're tuning in. 3 o'clock kickoff here in the UK. It's going to be. I'm going to go with 2-1 City. Just will scrape through that. I can't see us not conceding. I feel like it's going to be a close game, though, because I think Newcastle probably will go for 5 at the back and try and shore it up and try and stifle Erling Haaland and try and give him as little space as possible. But what's your predictions? Get in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts. Like and subscribe to Typical City, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now, holding up silver.